Hi, everyone. I wanted to share some pictures and some impressions about my recent trip to Israel. I traveled on a solidarity mission organized by the Masorti, or the conservative movement. We were a group of about 30 rabbis who, when the call came, dropped everything because we felt like we needed to be in Israel, dropped everything to go to Israel. It was a very short trip, only 56 hours on the ground, but the images we saw, the stories we heard, will last really a lifetime. In this video, I'd like to share with you some of the, I guess, more difficult stories and pictures, specifically regarding the hostages. Shortly after we landed, we went to Tel Aviv to essentially headquarters for the hostage families. It's a headquarters for the search for hostages, not by the government. That is happening for sure, but this is really the civilian equivalent. It's a place to provide outreach and support, uh, food and open arms for these families, but also logistical support. One of the amazing things we heard were that many former ambassadors have come out of retirement and they're staffing this hostage center, using the phone and reaching out to diplomats with whom they have connections to uncover any possible channels to help free the hostages, to bring them home. At the hostage center, we heard the story of a mother. Her name was Ayelet Shachar. She told the story of her daughter, Naama, who is a hostage. Naama grew up as a member of Noam, the conservative movement's kind of equivalent of USY, and she's a wonderful, vivacious young woman. And I can't begin to describe to you the heartbreak of and fear and worry of her mother. For out of respect, I didn't take any pictures of that session, but we heard her story. And then we walked just down the block to what's called Kikar Hatufim. And here I will show you some pictures. Admittedly, some of them are difficult pictures. Kikar Hatufim means hostage square. It's a plaza in Tel Aviv, right outside a library and performing arts center. And it is filled not only with people all day, but also with monuments. So you can see here, for example, one of the monuments is a picture of a crib that's empty, but where blood is scattered. And this quite graphic representation shows the emptiness in the heart of Israelis and the fear of the fate of these children, these hostages. Here's an image you might have seen. This table with 240 place settings for Shabbat, symbolizing the empty place in the homes of really every Israeli, and these families in particular. I had seen a picture like this before, and these tables have sprouted up all over the world, really. What I hadn't realized is how they have been populated. Originally, the table just had one place setting, challah, and a bottle of wine. But now look. So this is a place setting for this child, Kfir Bibas, and people have started bringing all kinds of things specific to each place setting. So in this case, baby toys and rattles, and people are writing letters to the children or to the hostages. You can see that says Mishpachat Bibas, for the Bibas family. And to see this table fill up with this outpouring of love and concern is incredibly touching and powerful. This is the table from a different perspective, and you can see the beautiful skyline of Tel Aviv in the background as the lights of the city start to come on. And the plaza is very, very busy with Tel Avivians, Israelis. There's really, again, no tourists, so these are mostly just locals who are there to bear witness. Right next to the table are 240 chairs. You can see that each of them have a pair of eyes. They're looking at us, even as we search for them. This is one of the monuments, and the symbolism is quite striking. It says, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lezeh. All the Jewish people are responsible one for another, and indeed Jews from around the world are holding the hostages in their prayers and advocating for their release. But look at what this is. This is a scale. You remember the teaching that says that if you destroy a single life, it's as if you destroyed an entire world. And if you save a single life, it's as if you have saved an entire world. And so you have the world here and the picture of the 240 hostages, and you can see how the scale is tipped, because if one life is worth an entire world, then 240 lives is much heavier than the world. Here's another monument in that same square. You can see that it's an hourglass, and the sand is at the bottom, meaning the time is running out to save the hostages. Every evening at 5:00, there are tefillot, or kind of a prayer vigil, you would call it, in this square. It's run by the conservative movement, the Masorti movement. It's not necessarily a traditional mincha, mariv, afternoon and evening service, but it's really more of a prayer vigil with singing Israeli songs and offering some prayers and some poems. On this night, we, as conservative rabbis, both Israeli and from around the world, help lead some of the singing. You can see in this picture, people were signing it, and we were singing Lu Yehi, the kind of takeoff on the Beatles song that is a prayer for the future. And the more we sang, the more people gathered around to join us. If I can get the audio working correctly, I will show it to you. But for now, I'll move on and come back. You see that there were scouts and young people who were lighting candles, in some cases in the shape of a Jewish star. And this, I think it was written Zachor, remember them, and the Tel Aviv skyline in the background. These are trees with the pictures of the kidnapped. They have been taken the vitality and of their lives, these young people who are blooming. Another monument, this one quite upsetting. It's an altar, kind of in the shape of a biblical altar. Think about the sacrifice of Isaac, for example, that kind of altar. And this box says Israeli government. In other words, this is a critique of the Israeli government, who have allowed these hostages to have been taken, to have been slaughtered, have been killed. These are people who are calling on Israel to bring them home, to take any measures to bring the hostages back, and they're sort of holding a vigil in the square. And you can see that the families themselves of the hostages are camped out in the square. And they spent much of the day, the families, just sitting in small circles, holding the posters of their loved ones and speaking to those who are there to offer comfort and support, strangers, family, and friends. The hostage families want to tell their story as part of, I think, what brings some of them comfort. And so there are people who come just to listen and to be with them. In this case, you see, out of desperation, this person, perhaps her father, is saying that, he'll exchange humanitarian aid for Gaza to aid our hostages. And in some cases, people are speaking to these hostage families. In other cases, it's just silence. Really, what can you say?